Hey guys, so here's part 2 of the section 4 notes. We are now going to be graphing our equations. So notice that both of these are in point-slope form. Okay. So when we graph, we are going to identify the point and identify the slope. Then we'll graph the point, and then using the slope, graph other points as well. We really want to make sure we graph at least 5 points. Okay, so now let's go ahead. Let's do our first one. We're going to have y minus 3 equals negative 2 times x plus 4. So let's identify the slope. So remember, point-slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals n times x minus x sub 1. So notice on this one, negative 2 is going to be our slope. Now let's identify the point. Now, when we identify the point, you will need to do the opposite of what you see for your x and y values, okay? Okay, so we'll need to use the opposite of what we see. So we have our y sub 1, and here's our x sub 1. So notice we have x plus 4. Now, maybe some of you are thinking, oh, that'll be positive 4. But remember, when we plug, and we did these problems, when we plugged in actually a negative into our x sub 1, that's when it became positive. So that's why we have to do the opposite of what we see. So for our x sub 1, it's not going to be positive 4. It's actually going to be negative 4. Now, let's do that for the y. So our y sub 1, though it says y minus 3, we have to do the opposite of what we see. So that's actually going to be a positive 3. Okay, now from there, let's plot the point negative 4, 3. I go over 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 1, 2, 3. Now, what I'm going to do is use my slope to plot 4 other points. So we have negative 2 as our slope. Now, if you want to change that into a fraction, remember to do so. Negative 2 is going to be actually in our numerator, and we put it over 1. So negative 2 is going to be my rise, while my run is going to be a 1. So we're going to go down 2 and then to the right 1. Because 1 is positive. So I go down 1, 2 to the right 1. So I plot that point. Once again, I go down 1, 2 to the right 1. And then down 1, 2 to the right 1. Okay, one more point. Down 1, 2 to the right 1. Now I have 5 points total. Now let's say, because you might see this, like we have a point that's really down here and we have to go backwards. Well, how could we do that? If you ever needed to go backwards, you can reverse. Meaning, instead of going down to, the reverse or opposite would mean we can go up to. But to make sure this still works and we have a line, that means we also have to reverse the denominator. So if I wanted to plot a point that was above negative 4, 3, what I would have to do is instead of going down to, I would have to go up to. And then instead of going to the right one, I would go to the left one. So I would plot that point, okay? So that is another way if you wanted to go plot points, right? So we do have at least 5 points. I connect them, don't forget, with a line. And because it's a line, we have arrows, meaning that you go on forever, okay? Okay, let's go ahead and try the next one. So we're doing the same thing. We're graphing in the point-slope form. So we have y minus 4 equals x, okay? So let's identify the slope and our point. Okay. Now notice we don't have the parentheses, like a number and then parentheses with our x. But no, there is a number in front of that x, and that number is a 1. So really, our slope here is 1. Okay? Remember, when you don't see a number, that is assumed 1 when we multiply. If you add or subtract it, you'll see a number. That's a 0. Now let's identify our point. Okay, so here we have y sub 1. Now notice once again, we don't see anything for our x sub 1, right? Well, let's kind of go back to one of our problems that we actually did where we wrote it that way. Remember y minus 3 equals 1/2 x? Well, that's when we had 0 as our x sub 1. So we could write it as x minus 0, or because, x minus 0 just gives us x, we could just write it as our x. So anytime you add or subtract and you don't see a number, that is automatically 0. So we could rewrite this as y minus 4 equals x minus 0. So our x sub 1 is actually going to be 0, okay? And of course, 0 is neither negative nor positive, so we don't have to worry about doing the opposite of what we see. But for the y sub 1, we do have to do the opposite of what we see. We see y minus 4, the opposite would be positive. So our point here is going to be 0, 4. Okay, now let's go ahead, we're going to plot that. So I go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Now my slope is going to be 1. Remember, if it is an integer, what we can do is turn it into a fraction, meaning we can take our number and put it over 1. So this means we will rise 1 and run 1. That means I'm going to go up 1 and to the right 1. Okay, I go up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. And now I have at least 5 points. Now don't forget, if you have to go backwards, that is another option. So instead of going up 1, our opposite, or going in reverse, would mean we go down 1, and then instead of going to the right, we could go to the left. And that still creates our line here. Okay? So make sure you connect the points, because if not, then you did not draw a linear function there, okay? Okay, make sure you work on the homework assignment, and if you have any questions, please contact me. I'll see you guys later.